And welcome back to the second episode of yet another bullshit podcast. I'm here as always with my co-host Dalton. How you been this week?
I'm doing good, Jeremy. I'm doing good, buddy. How about you?
I've been doing good. You get into anything fun this week?
I'm working on a new song. Maybe like once I get it a little more finished, I'll like end an episode with it or something. But as of this moment, it's still in very early stages. But I come up with a riff that I'm quite enjoying playing, which usually if I enjoy playing it, it means I can start getting creative with it. So I'm hoping to build from there. Other than that, man, I've been playing the shit out of some WWE 2K22.
How is it?
It's awesome. I've been really having a blast with it, man. Like the way it controls now is just so fluid. Like, and the I think I mentioned this last week, but they did a whole new engine for the game. Yeah. And like it shows after the shit show that was 2K20, which we'll get into a little bit later with one of our fan asked questions. But like it's just such a breath of fresh air in the wrestling video game genre that I'm just like, fucking thank goodness, dude.
And I haven't tried a 2K WWE game since I think it was 16, the one with Stone Cold on the cover. They like gave away with Game Was Gold, so I downloaded it, but the way they had made the character progression and the controls and stuff, they just made them so complicated. I ended up giving up. Like I went into a match with a created character and just got destroyed because I had no stamina, no moves, nothing unlocked. I was like, yeah, this isn't fun anymore, and just quit. But I've heard this new one, they've simplified all of that again and made it a lot more accessible for people that don't play the genre quite as much.
Kinda. So in my opinion, like 2K19 and 2K20 both had way easier control schemes than this new one, but it's just that this new one is a lot more fluid. Like I said, like I don't know how to describe it, like because in the old game or in 2K19 2K20 it was like you were mashing square, or if on Xbox it's X, to do your punches, and you would just hold it to do a strong attack. You would either press it to do a normal attack or hold it to do a strong attack, and then A was your grapple. And it was either like, press A or hold A if you want to do a medium grapple or strong grapple. And this year, it's a little more to it. Like you press B to grab them, and then like X in a direction is your light attacks, A in a direction is your heavier attacks. There's a lot more to it this year, in my opinion. But like it works. So I don't know. It's just it works. I like it.
I will say that does sound more like the. Like my favorite era of wrestling games back on N64, where like you had the grapple button and then you did some kind of direction and button combination to do moves off of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Are the one button finishers back?
So you have to. So I play on my Xbox controller, and you have two different meters this year. Like you have this blue meter that builds up, which you can use for like if you want to kip up. Or just like get up really quickly, you use one of those. You hit R1 when you're on the ground to get up like that, and it'll use one of those bars. But if you get all three of those bars full, you can use your signature, which is different than your finisher, which is built up on this golden bar beneath your stamina bar.
So it'd be kind of like the people's elbow versus the rock bottom.
Exactly, absolutely, and to do your signature, you have to hold R2 and then press square, or on controller or on Xbox, I guess it would be right trigger and X. And then on Xbox, it would be right trigger and A for your finisher. So it's two buttons. So it's
not too bad though. Pretty easy to pull off. It's not like, was it WrestleMania, the arcade game on 16-bit, where it's Street Fighter style combination button presses to do stuff.
No, God, no. 2K19 and 2K20 both had one button finishers, but like what was weird to me is that between 2K19 and 2K20 the gameplay didn't change all that much, but they swapped controls around, which just fucked me up. But this year, like the gameplay is different enough that like I expected new controls, so I went into it just like, okay, well this is how we're going to build from it. So
I will say I watched like an IGN quick video on it, and they were talking about the controls being different, talking about things being simplified a little bit, but graphically it looks fucking phenomenal from what I saw. Like that, because I'm a graphical snob. I love games that look as realistic as absolutely possible, and that alone made me be like, man, I kind of want to pick this up. Like, it's probably one of those games that when it goes on sale for $40 in 2 months, I might go pick up a copy just to try it out.
Dude, there's little things that they've done that I really appreciate. Like when you hit somebody hard enough, you'll see like the sweat and maybe a little spit fly out of their mouth and stuff. Like, just, also, I was whacking somebody with a kendo stick, and I was hitting them in the stomach. And the kendo stick eventually, like as you're using it, the kendo stick will just break, as they tend to do in wrestling matches. And the dude got up, and across his stomach and back, he had these big red whelps.
Oh, nice.
Where he was just like whacked the shit out of him, and I was like, that's cool. They didn't have to add that detail. But I like that, you know. And if you punch a dude in the face enough, they'll start getting these red splotches on their like forehead and their cheeks and things where you've been punching them.
Give them the old Chris Benoit knife chops across the chest. Their chest gets all red, puckered up.
Yeah, yeah, buddy.
Do you remember playing like WCW NWO World Tour on Nintendo 64?
I never played that one. I played No Mercy. My first WCW games were on the PS1. You might could do it in No Mercy. I know WCW and NWO World Tour did it, where you could unmask luchadors or people like that. And it's like, that was the coolest thing in the world to me. But now looking back at it, it's like, wow, they all just had the same generic face. So it's not like it really even mattered all that much to unmask them. Yeah, on No Mercy, I remember it was a big deal. You could unmask Kane.
Oh, yeah.
And when you... oh, excuse me. I took a sip of soda and went down the wrong pipe.
No good.
When you would unmask him, his face just had these big darkened circles around his eyes and stuff. And it was just like, that was it. It was just like he had a really darkened face.
I still hold No Mercy as possibly the best all-around wrestling game of all time, personally. I loved it. The controls were super simple. The creative character was really in-depth for the console that it was on. The entrances and stuff were really cool, because some of the N64, the earlier games, didn't even have ring entrances. You just picked your characters and it just showed them in the ring. You started the match.
Yeah. What would be my favorite wrestling game if I had to put one at the top? I think I would. It's a tie between two different WWF games back in the day. It was either SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, which was one of the ones I had for PlayStation. But then, like, also, well, actually, there's probably three that I really, because then SmackDown versus Raw 2007 is tremendous. It's very arcadey, but still, like, it looks realistic enough for the PS2 that you'd be surprised. It's pretty fucking good. But then the one that I probably put the most time into and I enjoyed the gameplay the most was probably 2K. Was it 2K14 or 2K16? It was one of those two. 2K14 or 2K16. That was just the perfect combination of simulation and arcade. And it was just tremendous, dude. I just fucking loved it. It was so fun.
Yeah, if I had to pick, like I said, No Mercy to me would be the best. After that, it would probably be a close second between World Tour on N64 and WrestleMania, the arcade game on Genesis is what I had it on, because it was just such a different game from every other wrestling game. Like, I think the people who did Street Fighter actually did that game, and it's funny, I don't know if you ever beat that game.
No.
You basically had a gauntlet you had to go through of all the wrestlers, but they had like these stories at the end, and the Undertaker had the weirdest story about, like, I think he ends up like destroying Mankind at the end, like actual people, not the wrestler Mankind. Like, he has this really, really dark like story ending at the end of the game. But that one was cool because it had all the ones I loved as a kid, like Doink the Clown, Yokozuna. Undertaker has always been one of my favorite wrestlers.
Let me tell you, probably the weirdest wrestling game that I ever played in my youth was a Game Boy game, and it was called WWF Betrayal.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I recommend anybody, if you find a copy of this, get it and play it, or go emulate it. It's a beat 'em up, and you have your choice of one of 4 characters. You can either be Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker, or Triple H. And based on who you pick, it will make somebody else your villain. And
nice.
yeah, it's just ridiculous. I think you're trying to like save Stephanie McMahon.
So it's like a legitimate like Streets of Rage style beat 'em up, or
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
I've got to find that now and try that out.
It's a fucking beat 'em up for the Game Boy. I put a ton of hours, and I think it was a Game Boy Color game. But yeah, it's fantastic. Well, I say that it might not have aged great, but when I was a kid, it was fantastic.
I'll have to look into that one. I imagine it's either amazing now and it's super expensive, or it sucks and it's $3, one of the two. So speaking on that, what is the worst wrestling game in your opinion, or one of the worst? WWE 2K20 on Switch aside, because that was just an absolute garbage pile.
2K20 on PC is not great either.
That's probably the best way to play that game.
Dude, I have a wrestling game for PS3 that's pretty fucking bad. That's TNA.
The TNA Impact.
Yeah, like
Oh yeah.
it could have been so much more. That's all.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's wrong with it. And then I have a Lucha Libre AAA Lucha game for PS3 as well. That's like, it's all right, but the controls are really fucking strange.
Oh yeah.
But the worst wrestling game.
If I had to say one of the worst, I'm not going to claim it's the worst ever, but WCW Backstage Assault on N64, and I think it was on PS1 as well, was just not good at all. Like, they tried to make a street fighting game out of a wrestling game, and it just didn't work at all.
Yeah. No, yeah, that game was very, very strange, because it's like, I like to actually wrestle in the ring too.
Yeah.
But no, it's like, no, everything's a backstage.
Everything's in a parking lot or in the locker room. One that gets a lot of flack, but I like it better than most people give it credit for, is, I think it's called The Simpsons Wrestling. I don't know if you ever played that.
Yeah, that was a staple.
Mechanically, it's not a great wrestling game, but for just like 15 minutes of nostalgic Simpsons fun, it's a cool game.
Yeah, dude, if you just look at it like a little Simpsons fighting game, like, it's a blast. I used to rent that all the time. I loved the Simpsons games, man. I don't know what it was about them. Objectively, probably the worst wrestling games that I can think of right off the top of my head are the ECW games for PS1. But I have memories of this game being frustrating when I was a kid, which means it was probably absolute garbage, and that was Legends of Wrestling for PS2.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Everybody just looked real weird.
Yeah, everybody was like overinflated and just really weird.
Yeah, they looked like those 80s rubber dolls. Like, I have one of Hulk Hogan around here somewhere where he just looks super buff. And yeah.
I've heard, I haven't played it, I've heard that new Hulk Hogan wrestling game is garbage.
There's a Hulk Hogan wrestling game?
What is it? I'll have to look it up. It's a Hulk Hogan titled wrestling game where you don't actually get to wrestle as Hulk Hogan. Let's see. What's the name of it?
That's tremendous.
Something else I was thinking about is, with current events going on, do you think anyone's going to miss Hulk Hogan when he's gone? Because like, I loved him as a kid, but he's kind of vastly devolved since then. Like, all the racism, all the just horrible stuff that's come out about him in several years.
I think in a situation like that, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, but like, you have to separate the person from the legacy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, because before we knew about that, like, it doesn't change the impact that Hulkamania had in the 80s.
This is
you know
true.
what I mean? It doesn't change the NWO, which we're going to bring up in talking about the NWO in a second, but like, it doesn't change any of that. Now, it could be like, man, he was really shitty, but fuck, dude, I respect what he did for the business. You know what I mean? And I feel that way about, there's some musicians that things came out about him that were fucking weird, and it's like, okay, so
prime
they were
example
weird
I'll
dudes.
give of that for me, and I'll discuss it later with one of the listener questions. Marilyn Manson, by far, is one of my favorite musicians of all time. Now, he's getting a lot of flack lately. I can go into depth with that. It's probably not a popular opinion, but like, I still, regardless of what he's done in his personal life, I still love his music. I still listen to it all the time.
Yeah. But
yeah, like you said, at some point you do, I guess, kind of have to separate the artist from the art, and it's I don't know. It's hard to say, because I just wonder, like, if you hear, you know, Hulk Hogan died, are you going to be like, oh my God, I wish I got to meet him, he's such a great talent, or are you just going to be like, oh, that sucks, and just going about your day?
Okay, well, I think because I didn't watch wrestling at the height of Hulkamania, like, my personal like experience with him, like, I didn't even watch much WCW back in the day. Like, I would catch it during Raw commercials, you know what I mean? But I was a Raw dude, so like, my Hulk Hogan is the Hulk Hogan that came in and ended up fighting The Rock, which was great.
Oh yeah.
But no, I mean, like, I might be like, man, that sucks, he's, you know, his legacy will live forever, but like, fucking, that's going to be a huge notch in the people wrestling have lost. I'll tell you who I will feel that way about when it eventually happens, and I think some people have their opinions on him, is Rick motherfucking Flair.
Oh yeah.
Like, if he ever goes and I don't get to shake his hand, man, I might shed a tear.
Apparently, I think my dad told me he met him in like a hotel lobby in Charlotte one time.
Bro,
like,
that's apparently common, because my parents were at their honeymoon at a hotel, and lo and behold, who was there? The Four Horsemen, and a bunch of people were in the bar, all drinking and shit. And my dad goes, bro, he goes, Dalton, I swear to you, Ric Flair was in there, and he was being Ric Flair. Like, he was wooing, and he was dipping women and giving them kisses on the cheek and buying everybody drinks. It was the wildest fucking thing.
And see, wrestlers like that who have that natural stage, I don't think they put it on for the cameras. I think that's who they are.
No, that is absolutely.
I mean, they play it up, I'm sure, but that's a personality type you have to have. Like, I'm very introverted. There's no way I could go on TV hooting and hollering in a pair of spandex briefs and a fur coat and big boots and have that stage presence that Ric Flair has. I would argue he brought showmanship to professional wrestling, because really before Ric Flair, it was, you know, you had two guys in tights, they went out, they wrestled. It was more technical, whereas he came out and he made it a stage show almost. Yeah.
And there were a few before him, but he was the first who like put it to the next level. You know what I mean?
He made it a mainstream thing.
Exactly, because the only one I can really think of who was kind of lavish like Flair before Flair was Classy Freddie Blassie, but that's going way back. You know what I mean? So
you had Flair, a little bit of, and it may have been after Flair. Ricky Steamboat had a little bit of it.
Yeah, that was after Flair, because they had some incredible matches in the 80s.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't know timelines for wrestling and stuff like that, because I really got into it in the 90s, because I was born in the mid 80s, so like I was that prime age in the 90s where I was going to be a wrestler. You know, all I did was buy the WWF entrance music CDs and stuff like that. Me and my friends would have cage matches in old dog pens in the woods and stuff like. And we lived and breathed wrestling in the 90s.
Yeah, buddy, I remember those days.
And that's one thing I'll say. Like, I don't think I'll be super sad when Hulk goes, but we weren't allowed to watch WWF as kids because our parents said it was too violent, too adult, because it was right at the start of the Attitude Era. So we watched WCW. So Hulk Hogan, probably not single-handedly, but he had a huge part in keeping WCW alive as long as it was, because when he came over and he basically started that Attitude Era for WCW and the Monday Night Wars and all. Because he came over, I want to say when he came over with the starting kind of the NWO sort of stuff.
No, actually.
Oh, no, that's right. He came over as Hollywood.
Hogan was doing the red and yellow thing
Yeah.
And it got to the point where people were booing him because they were just fucking sick of it. And to bring up our next thing, and then like I guess once we wrap up the wrestling talk, I'll ask you what you've been up to this week. I promise. But
yes, yet another wrestling podcast.
I'm a wrestling nerd. I'm sorry. I can write about it all the time. But like, so what started that was Scott Hall came in. And he was wearing regular clothes, and he came in through the crowd, and he hopped the barrier and grabbed a microphone. And then he cut that promo. He was like, "You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here." Right? And that's what. And then he said he had his big friend coming to help him, and that was Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
Well, they had the third man, and everybody was like, "Who's the third man?" And that turned out to be Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. And that was the infamous finger poke match. Like Hogan had the title, didn't he?
No. That was. It was Randy Savage versus the Outsiders, and then Hulk Hogan came down to help, and then he ended up dropping the leg on Savage. The finger poke of doom happened later when they had split with the Wolfpack, and then that was when they kind of like made amends or whatever.
That whole like branching path of WCW, WCW brought so many things that made wrestling amazing. And really, it was management that killed WCW, because WCW could have stayed going. They could have stayed mainstream, but there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people like. I remember Paul White did an interview I watched where he said he'd been with WCW for a while as the Giant. He was making like $100,000 or something like that. They brought Goldberg in and signed $1 million contract with Goldberg, and Paul White was like, "What's going on here? Like, I've been here. I've been keeping this brand afloat. I've been putting in good matches. Why is he getting paid 10 times as much as I am?" And they basically told him, "That's show business, baby." And he was like, "You know what? Vince McMahon does show business too. Let me go talk to him." Yeah. And that kind of just started that mass exodus of WCW, of all these guys who felt they were being underappreciated for what they were doing for the brand. And Vince McMahon had the pocketbook, so he's like, "Come on over to me." He's like, "I'll pay you more money just to steal you away from WCW."
And the most amazing thing about that is Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. I don't know about Hogan, but I know Scott Hall and Kevin Nash had favored nations clause, which means anytime somebody got hired for more money than they made, they automatically got a raise to whatever amount that is. Holy shit, what a deal to have in a fucking contract, son.
Now, WWE has a YouTube channel where they put a bunch of old matches up. I love Royal Rumbles, so I'll go back and watch Royal Rumbles on YouTube when I don't have anything to do. And the Royal Rumble I watched sometime last year was the one right after Nash and Hall had left for WCW. WWF at the time still had the Big Daddy Diesel and Razor Ramon
fake Diesel
branding. So they brought fake Diesel and fake Razor, and fake Diesel, I don't know if you realize it, is actually who Kane is now. I can't remember his real name, but
Glenn Jacobs.
Glenn Jacobs came out as Kevin Nash, and he looked the part. Like, he was a little different, but it was like stunt double close. Whereas the guy they hired for Razor Ramon, he looked like the Great Value version of Razor. He was literally on camera for about 7 seconds, and they tossed his ass over the rope, and he ran back to the backstage because nobody was buying that shit at all. He looked so bad.
Dude, my favorite story from that whole thing, I've heard Kevin Nash tell it. He said that that they got a phone call. Like, he was like on vacation somewhere, and he got a phone call from Eric Bischoff. He's like, "Where are you?" They're like, "In Florida." And he goes, "I'm sending a plane to pick you up. It's picking up Scott too on the way." And so the plane goes and picks them up, takes them to the office, and they're like, "What are those sons of bitches going to give you?" And Kevin and Scott are looking at each other like, "What are you talking about?" And they're like, "Raw is advertising you guys on their show. What are they paying you?" They gave them like a $200,000 raise a year.
Nice.
And then they're all sitting there watching the TV, and then Razor and Diesel come out, and it's those two. And Kevin and Scott said they just looked at the people who just gave them more money for no reason and just smiled and walked out of the room.
I mean, it's smart as hell.
I was like, God damn, man. But like, to bring the happiness down a little bit, unfortunately, I guess Scott Hall was having some hip surgery, and from what I've read, it was something to do with like a blood clot got loose and went to his heart or something, but he had 3 heart attacks. Yeah. And they had to put him on life support. And that was as of yesterday, and today is the 14th, March 14th. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So as of this morning, I was reading Kevin Nash posted on his Instagram that basically, Scott's on life support, and once his family's in place, they're going to take him off life support. And Kevin was talking about how he's literally, there's been no one on the earth that he spent more time with than Scott Hall, and now he's going to have to learn to live without him. I was misty-eyed. I was straight misty-eyed.
Yeah. That has to be just absolutely devastating, because they spent so much time together. I mean, they're basically brothers, and I know Kevin was there for Scott through all his issues with drug use and all of that stuff. It seemed like Scott has got his life together several years ago. He's starting to do better. I know they were doing like conventions and stuff like that. Yeah. I hate it for him, because I mean, he was Razor Ramon and Scott Hall, the character, were big inspirations on my life as a kid. Like Scott Hall, I walked around with a toothpick in my mouth all the time because Scott Hall did it. And Scott Hall was cool as hell because he had a greasy mullet and a big gold chain and a bunch of chest hair and stuff. And he, like you said, he will always be the bad guy. He was like our generation's Tony Montana. Like, he was that bad guy you wanted to emulate, you wanted to be like, because he was so damn cool, such a good looking guy. Like, it just worked. The Razor's Edge was one of my favorite finishers in all of wrestling.
Dude, he would rib people when he first met him. Nice. He'd be like, "Hey, welcome to the company. Tuck your chin on my finisher." Because he would just be like, immediately, just like, "I'm going to beat you. Just be sure to tuck your chin." Which just cracked me up. But like, yeah, man, I posted it on Facebook, and I'll post it in our group. But there's a picture that's been going around for years now. That's a picture of Razor Ramon, but it's stylized like Vice City. Yeah. And it looks sweet, man. And I shared that today, and I shared a quote. The way he ended his Hall of Fame speech was, hold on one second, I had it pulled up. "Hard work pays off and dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do." Yeah. And then he flicked his toothpick, and like, man, what a fucking legacy that guy's gonna leave behind.
Oh yeah. Yes. I was devastated hearing that news, because like I said, those two were two of my favorites. And I mean, like, even they tried to play heel, and like they could barely turn heel in wrestling because people just loved them so much that when they went heel, people were like, "Well, this is the good thing now. We're going to hate the other stuff."
The NWO totally brought in that it's cool to like the bad guy thing to the mainstream, because there was always the people who would root for like the Four Horsemen, even though they were bad guys and things like that. You know what I mean? So I give it to them
Warriors.
And
people love the Road Warriors. I remember, speaking of NWO, when I was in middle school, was the prime of that Monday Night Wars NWO stuff. You remember Conan? Yeah, Mexican guy. Orale. He always had the button flannel, like the top button done with the NWO shirt. Dude, I wore that outfit to middle school, like every year of, I think, 8th grade. I would have a wrestling t-shirt and a flannel with one button. Yeah. My pasty white ass with no Latino in me whatsoever, dressed like Conan every single day of middle school. It was honestly probably the most ridiculous thing I could have done, but I loved it so much.
Dude, if it makes you feel better, like, my big fat ass would try to go to school dressed like Jeff Hardy, wearing the big pants and the bright shirt, paint my nails, you know what I'm saying, like eyeliner. I was Dalton the Hardy, god damn it.
Oh yeah. I remember they were from North Carolina, where I'm from, and I was always like, I just want to go to their hometown and just drive around and see if I could run into them, or like Lita. I had the biggest crush on Lita as a kid. Buddy. It was like, I just want to drive around and see if I can find them and talk to them. It's like, obviously that's not going to work, but you know, being a teenager, you're just like, man, if I go to this town and wait, then maybe I'll run into them.
I'm just saying, if people see Undertaker in a town near me, you might be able to see the Hardy Boys eventually in their hometown. You know what I'm saying?
I saw, didn't Jeff Hardy just joined AEW, didn't he?
Yeah, people were giving him flack because Matt was getting his ass whooped in the ring, and Jeff came out and still did his little dance thing before he ran down to the ring.
Yeah, I saw that he comes out. I saw like the clip of it. I'm like, dude, in these particular situations, I'm not a professional wrestler, but usually script says run to the ring, help your buddy, then do your, whatever. It's like, no, he comes out, does his little entrance dance and stuff. Yeah, Matt's down there just getting his ass kicked in the ring. But it is nice to see them back together again. So I know Jeff had a lot of substance abuse issues too. So hopefully that's done and dusted.
That has been, as far as I know, he's been having that under control recently. So. Yeah.
And that's what I say. I know you're not as huge a fan of AEW as I am. I do like the fact that from what I hear, they're letting the wrestlers have more input on their performances and their story arcs and stuff like that, which I agree with, because if you make up your own story arc, you're going to have more passion and you're going to want to see it through better than if, some suit comes to you and says, oh, this is your storyline. You're like, I don't like this. My character would never do this. And they're like, too bad, came from up top. This is what you're doing. Do it, or we're going to bump you down to the next level.
I think that's a double-edged sword. And the only reason I say that is, and hold on, let me go ahead and state that while yes, I'm a WWE fan, these days I think a lot of it's cookie cutter and a lot of it is just cheesy. I'll agree with that. But in the heyday of WWF, WWE, late 90s, early 2000s, whatever you want to say, they had like the guys backstage, like it was the bookers or so, was like 4 or 5 dudes, but like a couple of them were veterans, and of course Vince is at the head of whatever. But the thing to me with AEW is giving talent their creative control like that causes things like the finger poke of doom.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Because you get somebody, and I'll just use Hogan for an example, who's going to stroke his Fu Manchu and go, that doesn't work for me, brother.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit you with a leg drop, 1, 2, 3. And then like, what the fuck are you going to say? Because it's Hulk Hogan and he's in charge. Like, not in charge, but he's one of the higher ups. And that's the same thing happens in AEW. Now, I do think AEW's got some sick storyline, a sick storyline right now with the whole MJF CM Punk thing. It's tremendous.
Now, see, CM Punk is one that I was out of wrestling when he came in, so I have no nostalgia or no history with him, pleasant memories. So when he came out in AEW, I watched that match, and it was like the crowd just got so loud. And I'm like, I just don't get it. My thing that got me to AEW was Sting, because I love Sting when he did the flat top haircut and the little like spiked face paint.
Yeah,
when he went,
Surfer Sting.
When he went full Crow, the coolest thing ever was when he did the NWO reveal, because back then everybody had to join some sanction of NWO. There was no WCW anymore. He comes out with like the white shirt on, like rips his coat open, has the white shirt. Hogan and them were celebrating, then he just starts beating ass and rips the white shirt off. He's got the Wolfpack shirt on. Like, that was some of my favorite shit in wrestling. So when I saw he was in it, I was like, I'll give this a shot. It's on Hulu. I pull up a match, and it's him and Darby Allin tag team match, and like they're getting their asses kicked, and all of a sudden Sting just pulls that classic wrestler second win when he like does the double Scorpion Deathlock on both the guys they're fighting against. I was like, yeah, this shit is for me. This is the wrestling that I enjoyed as a kid. And like I didn't stay with it, but like that really got me hyped, and it took me back to my childhood where it was like, yeah, wrestling is what got me through as a kid. I loved it. I was all about it. And it kind of took me back to being, 12, 13 years old, watching those matches on WCW and WWF when I would sneak and watch it when I wasn't supposed to.
I just hope that it doesn't end up being another case of WCW or TNA where they start relying on bringing in ex-WWE guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's been a lot of that recently.
Bringing in big names will get you the fan base, but you have to have dynamic stories. You have to have good matches to keep those people watching. Because if you bring in like, say they bring Ric Flair back again for some reason, but he's out there wrestling like a man his age, people aren't going to care. They're going to watch that first match, but they're going to be like, this is kind of boring. I don't want to watch this anymore.
Dude, they brought back Christian, and they haven't done much of shit with him. Like, you know, my thing is that, like, I wish the AEW would stop signing people. As cool as it is that all these guys are getting signed, they need to focus on the roster that they have. Yes. And they need to start building actual storylines that, like, people other than AEW marks, no offense to anyone who's an AEW mark, just feed off of, because they're super into the indie stuff, and they will just blow anyone who says the Young Bucks are the best thing ever. Right? Like, I know people like that.
To me, I love, what are they called? Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. What's their tag team called?
Oh, fuck, what are they called? I don't know, because they also have the little dude with them, Marco Stunt. I don't remember their name, but I know
seeing this, like, 7-foot dude come out in a fucking, like, dinosaur Kane mask. He's basically Dinosaur Kane, and it was just watching them perform was just the coolest shit to watch at the time. So yeah, like, take the talent you have and build a bunch of engaging story arcs that's covering everybody. I think what happened with WWE is they tried to spread too thin when they started doing, like, you know, they had SmackDown and Raw, and that worked. But then they started being like, all right, these are two separate brands. We're not going to mix them anymore, except, you know, on pay-per-views we'll bring out this person, and then occasionally we'll bring out this person. And then don't they have TNA now, which is like their junior league?
Oh,
it's
like
NXT. NXT. Like, they just, I feel like they spread everything too thin.
Definitely for their writers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going from writing one show to writing 2 shows, then now you're writing 3 shows a week.
Yep.
And you have to write next week's shows to make sure that these shows make sense, because you have to plan for what you're doing next week. And dude,
and then they probably have a huge board up where it's like, oh, we're going to do this match. Oh, we can't do that because these two are on separate brands, and we can't intermingle them anymore. And I feel like they're kind of cutting themselves off the knee. I think AEW coming in, especially if they stay successful, will make WWE better, because competition has never made things worse. Usually the fans win when there's competition, because everybody's going to try 110% to win your viewership. Oh yeah, dude, and the best Vince McMahon is the Vince McMahon in competition. Oh yeah. Like, that was proven in the 90s, absolutely. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, as much as I dislike Vince McMahon, when he did save WWF at the time, he brought it into the modern age. And like you said, the Attitude Era was some of the best shit to ever come out of wrestling. And I don't think without Vince McMahon that probably wouldn't have happened. I feel like back then, though, I feel like he gave his stars a little bit more say-so in what was going on. I feel like these guys came out and was like, hey, Vince, you know, what if the two of us, you know, we're tag team partners, what if we just have a fallout in the back, and then, you know, you put us in a match against each other, and one of us ends up turning heel or something. And I feel like that flow back and forth helped, whereas now, like you said, the writers are writing crap, and they're just saying, all right, here you go, this is what you're doing. Yeah. So, yeah, that's basically what it's become. But we'll see how it goes in the future. You know. So one last topic before we get off of wrestling. A question I've asked before. What is your, and this may be too heavy to, might have to think about it. What is your Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling? Oh, fuck. Yeah. There's 4 heads on Rushmore, right? Yes. Okay, for some reason I always want to think there's 5, and no, okay, there's 4. Ric Flair. Yeah. Shawn Michaels. The Undertaker. Yeah. Here's the controversial one that everyone's gonna be like, what? Triple H. I can see that. Triple H started the D-Generation X stuff. That was big. He's one of the best heels ever. Oh yeah. Like, just one of the best bad guys. I've been watching back some old Raw from like 2003, 2004, and fuck, he's such a good bad guy in Evolution. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so I've changed mine a lot, but I try to go with like who changed wrestling for the better. So like I've always had Stone Cold on there. Okay. Stone Cold and The Rock, because those two created something when they came onto the scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the moment, I would say Hulk Hogan, because he also changed wrestling. I'd say Hulk or Ric Flair, because they both kind of, in their era, they changed what wrestling was. Because Ric Flair brought out the showmanship. Hulk Hogan kind of brought out the
money,
commentary, the money, like the making wrestlers into superheroes. Like Hulk Hogan was a superhero when we were kids.
Fuck yeah.
And then fourth, I would say probably Undertaker, because he's been, I mean, we've had what, 5-6 different Undertakers through his career, because you had like the original guy that had like the really shitty costume, but he was just, you know, a gravekeeper basically, and then he becomes like undead, and then he becomes a motorcycle riding Kid Rock fan. But he's evolved so much with the sport. He was so dynamic throughout his career that he was able to stay relevant for what, almost 40 years, I think. Dude,
a long ass time. He debuted in 92, I think, the year I was born.
30 years. Yeah.
So that motherfucker too, and he was always the Undertaker. You know what I'm saying? Like he changed his persona, but at the end of the day, that was the fucking Undertaker. And I got the privilege. I have Polaroids of it, and my mom had surgery today on her eye, or I would bug her about where these pictures were at. But I had these Polaroids, and one of the matches I got to see back in the day was Undertaker versus Ric Flair.
Oh, nice.
And it was such a good match. By the end of it, fucking Flair was a bloody goddamn wreck, of course.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it was good shit, dude. But yeah, Undertaker made both of ours. He's the one crossover between our...
Oh, yeah. I would also argue notable mentions, Mick Foley. Because Mick Foley kind of brought that ECW style extremeness to the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
That a lot of people weren't letting somebody throw him off top of the Hell in a Cell. Like, that dude volunteered for that, and that just blows my mind. I can't imagine doing something like that.
If I was going to do an honorary fifth head, Chris Jericho.
I can see that. Chris Jericho always kind of bugged me a little bit. Like... I think it's just his personality.
Yeah.
But like he's a good heel. He is a good heel when he turns heel, because he's got that braggadocio and that ego that he can portray. It's like, I'm the best thing that's ever been. You're gonna respect me. And like he's a really good heel to me, but yeah, he's always kind of bugged me, just personality wise.
I gotta see if I can find the video or the GIF, and I'll post it in our Facebook group of Jericho walking to the ring, and they're in Canada, and there's this kid in the rampway. He's holding a sign that says something like, Brett's gonna kick Chris Jericho's ass like I'm gonna kick cancer's ass. This is like a little cancer kid, and Chris Jericho, without even looking at the kid as he's walking up by, snatches the sign out of the kid's hand, rips it in half, throws it on the ground, just keeps walking to the ring. I was like, yes, you heel son of a bitch.
That's the most heel shit you could do. And that's something, I don't think he belongs on Mount Rushmore, but Bret Hart was always one of my favorite professional wrestlers. I think his family was done really dirty by WWE when his brother died, but I've always loved Bret Hart.
Yeah, the Owen situation was weird, but I do also, like, on the other hand, and no, not on the other hand, in a different situation, the screw job was totally called for, because Bret was not wanting to cooperate, and in the end, like, you have to cooperate.
I have heard a conspiracy theory that really made me think that the screw job was orchestrated by Bret Hart and Vince McMahon. Because they're like, Bret Hart spit in Vince McMahon's face. Like, do you think Vince McMahon would have let people see that on television? Like, he goes in the back to, like, whoop his ass or whatever. Like, I forget exactly the way the guy described it to me, because I was always like, no fucking way. Like, Vince screwed Bret over, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, but think about it. And he starts listing these things off, and I think it's all listed online. We'll have to find it. If I can find a link, we'll try to put it in the show notes. But yeah, they're like, he starts listing shit off, and I'm like, well, fuck you then. Get out of here. I don't know. It's not real. It's not real. And then, like, but the more he talked about it, I was like, damn, maybe it was this thing. Like, I don't think anybody else knew anything about it but those two.
Yeah.
But like,
if that's the truth, because I've had that thought too. If that's the truth, that's the greatest work of all time.
Oh, that would put him on Mount Rushmore. If that's legit. If like he came out in an interview and were like, "Yeah, me and Vince had it all set up. It was 100% scripted," I'd be like, "Holy shit, you're the greatest showman ever!" Like, because you sold that shit so well. So yeah, Bret Hart, if you're listening to the podcast, we'd love to have you as a guest, and you can tell us on our show how it was a setup.
Right, absolutely. And then you can yell at me for Shawn Michaels being on my Mount Rushmore and you not being on my Mount Rushmore. Oh man, yeah. So just in to wrap all the wrestling chat up, man. I'm going to assume that Scott Hall's probably no longer with us by the time this comes out. So if not, rest in peace, man.
Rest in peace.
If you somehow magically kick out, then fuck yeah. But I'm a pessimist, so I'm going to say it's probably not going to look great. But
if you kick out of this, you're on the Mount Rushmore. It's just you, like Jeff Goldblum laid out across all four faces.
Fucking right. Yeah, man. So what have you been up to this week? Is there anything?
Been a fairly uneventful week. Played more Horizon Forbidden West, which I will talk about later on in one of our community questions. There's a couple of things about it that have irked me over the last week, but overall, it's been a pretty good game. It's been better than the first one to me.
Hell yeah! Is it like is there more story to it? Because I know, or no, I'm sorry, not more story to it. Does it pick up a little quicker in the beginning? Because I remember like the original Horizons, like it's fun, but that beginning section seemed like the beginning
section where you're a kid seems like it takes forever in the first one.
It's a little too long, just a little.
Not much. You kind of pick up where the first one left off. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but you kind of pick up in like what you thought you beat in the first game. Turns out that it was kind of undone, so now you're trying to go finish what you started, sort of. I don't want to give away too much plot point because I know I hate when story driven games are spoiled for me.
Yeah,
but like it's pretty decent. It plays pretty well. I think it's gonna be really fucking long, but because I'm about 11 and a half hours in and I found like one of 5 to 8 things that you have to find throughout the game, so I feel like it's gonna be really long, but it's been enjoyable so far. And I gave the first game a lot of flack because it got really long in the tooth and kind of boring to the point where towards the end I was like, damn, will it ever end? I just want it to be over with. Honestly, this one may do the same thing, but so far I'm still enjoying it. So
that's good.
What topics you want to jump on first off?
Well, I didn't expect us to talk about wrestling for so long, so sorry. Yeah. That's my bad. Since we're talking about video games, somebody the other week mentioned the sandwich state of games.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
And it's basically like back in the day when you got a video game, you got a cheeseburger with all the fixins, and you had extra cheese and you had bacon. That might have been in 2 expansion packs or like a character pack or something. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's like you get a game and it's a bun, and then your burgers are season passes. Your lettuce is a character pack, your tomato is a level pack, your onion is blood. Pickles. If you want more than one pickle is a Best Buy exclusive pre-order bonus. The other one is a GameStop pre-order bonus. It just doesn't make any sense.
The only argument I would have with that, I agree with it, but I would say maybe the game itself now is your bun and your meat patty. Because like some people, that's enough. You're fine. Now some games, that's absolutely not true. You get a bun with like a half-cooked lob of ground beef on it, and then they say, don't worry, we'll cook it later.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get it cooked for you eventually, but right now, just take what you get. And that bugs me more than anything, that you used to get a full game, whereas now a lot more games are coming out. More often than not, it's a buggy mess that they're almost having their customers play test the games for them, figure out what's wrong with it, and then they're going back and fixing it. which I can't agree with in a $60 to $70 new game world. I shouldn't pay $70 for a game and have to do QA for it too. So
yeah, I 100% agree.
And now granted, a Super Nintendo game was a lot easier to play through 100%, find all the bugs and stuff than something like a Cyberpunk or Red Dead Redemption 2 or something that's going to take...
Babylon's Fall.
Yeah, Babylon's Fall. I don't even think they played that. I think they were just like, oh, it's technically a game. Let's put it out and move on to the next thing. Hey, I like Babylon Fall, though. In our fantasy video game league, it got me a lot of points as a counter pick.
Oh, man. Yeah, poor Phil.
Yeah, R.I.P. Phil.
R.I.P. Philly.
Yeah. But yeah, video games are... Something else I want to touch on with that topic is I hear a lot of people complain about the price of video games. I can't agree with it. I agree they're expensive, but they're expensive as shit to make now too. You know, games several years ago, they might have spent $100,000 to make a AAA title. Now you look at games like Death Stranding that cost tens of millions of dollars to make. And other than the price point on some of these games, they're not making any money other than what they're selling it to you for. And the dynamic of video games now are that you put it out and in a month to 2 months, you discount it. So sadly, most of the modern stuff, if people don't buy it that first week, they're not going to buy it until it goes on sale. 9 times out of 10. I was talking with the local GameStop manager, a friend of mine, and we were talking about it the other day because people bash GameStop for their trade-in prices. But that's what I told them. I look at it as if nobody bought that game when it came out, they're not going to buy it until it goes on sale. So if they give you $35 for a $60 game, and then it sits on their shelf until it goes on sale for $30 and somebody buys it, they end up losing money on it. Like, I'm not defending GameStop at all, but I understand where they're coming from. Yeah. And that's my thing is a lot of people bitch games shouldn't cost $60 or $70, but then they also say games shouldn't have paid DLC, games shouldn't have microtransactions. I'm fine with all that stuff as long as it's not impeding my enjoyment of the game. Whereas like Battlefront 2 came out and it was grind for 500 hours or spend money to buy these characters that'll make you way stronger than anyone else in the game. That I can't agree with. It shouldn't be pay to win. But you want to do cosmetics and shit like that, by all means go ahead. I've spent money on cosmetics. Like my kid loves Minecraft. He's used some of his money he's raised doing chores and stuff to buy skin packs and stuff like that, DLC for Minecraft. And I'm fine with it because you're supporting the people who make things that you enjoy in your spare time. I have no problem with that.
And dude, I feel the same way as long as your stuff is cosmetic or, you know, just to be cool, a mount, like even in MMOs, you know what I'm saying? If you want to pay money for a mount or you want to pay money for a certain armor, the way it looks, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I am perfectly cool with that. It's when you start introducing things that you can buy that make you better at the game. Yeah, like that I have an issue with. Because then that becomes pay to win.
Yep. Like if you're playing, trying to think of something, Warzone, and you want a tank that's painted up like a unicorn, that's cool. If you want to spend $20 on that, I'm not going to argue. But if you can buy a gun that one shot kills everybody, that's not fair. Because then if I don't spend my money to buy that gun, you have an unfair advantage over me. And like single player games, go for it. If you want to sell a sword in Elden Ring that does 999 damage per swipe, go for it. But don't do it in multiplayer games where it puts somebody at a disadvantage because they didn't spend their money to buy that.
Man, one of the DLCs that has always made me laugh, and this is random, but I just had the thought and I didn't want to forget it. Have you heard of the game Galgun?
It sounds familiar. I don't know anything about it.
Basically, the premise of Galgun is it's a rail shooter, but you don't shoot bullets. You shoot pheromone shots at girls that are trying to come towards you.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those really Japanese games, right?
It sounds very Japanese.
There is a DLC called the Pheromone Z item, which allows for nudity in the game.
Okay, then.
This DLC is $89.99.
Jesus. It's expensive to be a pervert in video games.
$89.99. Fucking seriously, bro. Like, God, hentai is like free on the internet if that's what you're looking for. $89.99.
But I guarantee you people have bought it, so I can't argue that one either, because now the one that killed me was I can't even remember what game it was. It was like last year, one of the fighting games that came out where they had like $1,200 worth of costume DLC. Like you had to buy each thing of hair and each costume and stuff separately, and they were all a few dollars a piece. Cannot remember what game it was. Was it
the Dead or Alive one? That was like you could get the base core game for free, and then everything else was a DLC.
Maybe so.
I can tell you, all the DLC for Tekken 7 costs $200.
Jesus. I just can't see it like paying, especially for cosmetics, spending an extra $200 for cosmetics is just blows my mind.
Tekken 7 is also like level packs, character packs and stuff too. But like still though, that's a lot of money.
$200 is a lot of money.
Some of those characters are like $5.99 for one of them, $7.99 for one of them, and I'm like, God damn. Yeah.
I do like that they do it that way, because say there's just like one particular character you want, you can drop $6 on it and you're good to go. Whereas like if they said, well, you want this character, it's in this bundle pack that costs $50, and that's the only way you can get it. That's not fair.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel about some games introducing more than one season pass? Like they treat them like seasons.
Depending on how they do it. I'm a huge F1 fan, as you know.
Yeah.
F1 started that in 2020 or 2021. They called it the Podium Pass. The way it worked is it was like $8 for the thing. It was kind of like Fortnite or Warzone, where you level up. As you level up, you unlock cosmetic stuff, but you also unlocked what they call pit coins, which is like the currency you use to buy stuff in game.
Yeah.
But the way they do it, and I know Fortnite does the same thing, is if you play through the entire season, you get all the rewards, you get enough pit coins to pay for the next season. So it's kind of a way to keep you playing the game, because that way you're like, I can get enough coins, I unlock the next one, I get to go through that one again. I know Fortnite does it. I don't have a lot of experience with Warzone, but I feel like they do it too. I'm cool with that. If I can pay like $8 when the game comes out and all I have to do is log in once a day, run a few races, get enough experience points that I'll have enough to unlock the next season, that's cool. I'm fine with that. Whereas, if I lapse off and then I decide to go back, I'm like, I screwed up. I got to pay another $8 to get back into this. In my personal experience, once I put a game down, I very rarely go back to it.
Yeah.
So I kind of just play it until I've had my fill. And if it's something I truly, truly enjoy, I don't really mind paying those few dollars extra. But like you said, if you were getting upgrades to your cars or something that's going to make you have a competitive edge, it's bullshit. But yeah, as far as like breaking it into seasons, I'm okay with it personally. I don't know how you feel about it.
Well, to me, it's just like, well, I'm going to use Tekken 7 again as an example. Their first season pass that came out. Now, Tekken 7 came out in 2017. So they've done 4 season passes since then.
Yeah.
The first one was $25. The second one was $30. The third one was $25. And the fourth one was $15. Now, those are cool, but like, what bothers me is when you buy a season pass, usually it's, you get the season pass and you get all the DLC that's going to come out for the game, and you pay that one big price, but you save a little money in the long run. Whereas this game released a season pass and then you got some free stuff, and then they were like, oh, we're going to come out with more stuff, but if you want it, you have to get the second season pass. You have to buy it. And I don't know if you can earn it. I don't think you can, like in this. But I know Borderlands 3, I think, is on season pass 2 or 3 now as well, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I just wish they would just put out a season pass, make it $60, and then you just get whatever fucking DLC comes out for the game.
Yeah. Make it like, instead of a season pass, make it like a DLC pass, where it's like whatever we put out for the game is going to be included, which I understand it from their point of it's a way to keep making money off of something that people aren't necessarily buying new anymore. But like I said, as far as putting out something every year, you have to pay for it. I'm not 100% against it because it's optional. You don't have to buy that if you don't want it. Most people probably played it that first year, moved on to something else, and never even knew other season passes came out. Season passes are weird to me because, like I said, it's a way for the developers to make more money off of the product, and I'm not entirely against that as long as it's an interesting game and it's a way to keep you engaged. Because like doing those podium pass things in F1 kept me playing the game longer than I would have if that wasn't there. Because I'm like, oh man, there's this really cool livery I can unlock, but I've got to get 3 more levels, so let me go knock out part of a career mode or something, get those 3 levels, unlock that livery, get to play with it. Because in F1 2020 they brought out what's called My Team career mode, where instead of joining an F1 team as a driver, you actually are an owner driver. You make your own team, you name it, you make decisions on upgrades, stuff like that. You sign a second driver, and you can like sign different drivers throughout your career, throughout your seasons that you play. You design the car yourself, like you pick from liveries, you pick colors, you put your sponsor logos on it. To me, that's really cool, and it actually made me like the game a lot more. But yeah, doing that where you unlock those extra I just blanked on the word, cosmetics, makes it a little more interesting, puts a little bit more replayability into a game I paid $60 for. So I'm cool with it. Like I said, it's all in how they do it too. Like I'm okay with like advertisements in games. I've talked about this, I think, in another Facebook group we're in, where if, say, Gran Turismo 7 just came out, if they had billboards on the track for actual real life products, it was advertisements, but they weren't intrusive, they were just there, I'm cool with that. Like I talked about Spider-Man. If you were swinging around New York and there were actual company logos on billboards and video billboards and stuff, yeah, I feel like it would make it a little more immersive, like you're actually in New York.
When I play Grand Theft Auto 5 on PC, I mod it to where the billboards, the semi trucks, all of that stuff are actual companies. So like it'll be like Walmart trucks and shit driving through. Yeah, it just makes it a little more realistic.
I understand the licensing hell you'd have to go through to make that work, but I think it'd be a cool way for these developers to make more money if they say, hey, we're going to sell sponsorship in this game. Coca-Cola pays them $1 million, and they put Coca-Cola billboards all over New York City.
Well, it's like was it Death Stranding with the monster cans?
Yeah,
just little things like that. But there's the other side. Well, I think it's the NBA games that put fucking actual commercials in the video game. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, NBA 2K21 or 22, they put them in. They put actual commercials in the game that you can't skip. That is fucking horseshit. I should not have to watch commercials in a game I paid $70 for. Now, like UFC did it, but they had little commercials playing like in the bottom of the screen, like while you were watching like the match replays or something.
That's different.
It's different. It still kind of sucks, but it's not in the way. Whereas, like I said, NBA, legit, your screen fills up with a commercial you can't skip. I don't like that idea.
No, yeah, absolutely not.
But like you said, now NBA 2K did it where the video billboards in the stadium had actual company logos and actual company advertisements on them while you were playing the game. Yeah, I'd be perfectly cool with that. And like I said, I feel like that adds a little bit more immersion for the player, because you're like, this is real life. This is actual stuff I would see if I was at this stadium watching this game.
It's no different than the sports games that come out that are perfectly good in their own right, but people that are fans of those sports don't want to play them because they're not real characters. You know what I mean? Like, was it NBA Street, I think, like, would have some characters and stuff that were real, but then there was a lot of not real characters. Now, while I loved it because I wasn't an NBA fan, most of my friends preferred, like, the NBA live games and stuff because you could play as real.
There's a lot of, like, when EA got the exclusive NFL rights, you had companies putting out stuff like All Pro Football, which was... All Pro was... I thought it was great because you actually made your own team. You designed your uniforms, you designed your stadium, everything, and then you picked rosters from like Hall of Fame players that weren't playing in the league anymore, and you played like that. And to me, that was really cool. But like you said, a lot of people were like, I want to play with the players that are on the team now. Yeah. And you can't do, like, you couldn't make official NFL teams in the game. You had to make custom teams. Whereas EA is bringing out a college football game again, and I'm wondering if they're going to try to pay the players for likeness rights, or if they're just going to make completely randomly generated characters for the teams. I'm fine with randomly generated characters because I want to play as my custom character anyways. Like, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to set the game on easy, I'm going to rush for 3,000 yards a season and get drafted number 1 in the draft.
But
a lot of people, a lot of sports fans I know are like, no, I want the real players. I want to play an authentic game. So, I mean, it's something we touched on with another topic of people just not being... It's so hard to please everybody because half the people are going to be okay with something that the other half of people are going to be adamantly against.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I remember I loved Blitz the League back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
It was like
Blitz the League was amazing to me.
Once Blitz lost the NFL license when Madden ganked it up. Yeah, they come out with Blitz the League, and that game was like, your player gets hurt, they're going to be out for half the season, or you can juice them up and they'll be out 2 games.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. Here's some steroids
every single time. I loved it because you could bet on your games before the game. Like, that game, a lot of people give that game flack. I personally love that game.
Oh, love it, dude. It's so good.
But speaking of football,
I was about to do that. Yep, good transition.
Segue. So I don't think you had seen it until I showed you. Tom Brady yesterday announced that he was unretiring and coming back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to play another season, which I'm not super surprised by. The funny part of it is apparently Saturday night, 12 hours before he had made this announcement, some guy bought his last touchdown football thrown in the playoff game against the Rams. I think it was the Rams, yeah, for $518,000. And that football is no longer his last touchdown pass. It's just a touchdown ball from Tom Brady. He's thrown a shitload of touchdowns. Now, being so close to when it happened, maybe he hadn't paid for it yet, and he can just be like, look, I'm not paying for this, whatever. Or maybe the auction house will give him his money back if he did. I highly, highly doubt it because that football will never sell for anywhere near that again. And auction houses are not known for integrity. So I kind of hope for the guy's sake that he didn't pay and he can kind of just weasel his way out of it.
Dude, that's so much money. That's so much money. And I feel bad for the guy, but at the same time, if you pay $500,000 for a football, you're a fucking idiot. Like, plus, I mean, it's Tom Brady ball, so that thing's gonna be like half deflated and weird.
This is true. No, dude, I used to hate Tom Brady until the Super Bowl against the Falcons when he came back for like 28-3, I think. He came back and won the Super Bowl. And I was like, you know what, man? People hate Tom Brady because he is the best. He's the best there is at what he does. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of starting to become a fan of the guy.
Well, and you know what brought him back from retirement, right?
What?
So I read this thing after we had talked about it. It showed up on my Twitter where apparently LeBron James had sent Tom Brady a text and was like, man, you're quitting? We're both the best at what we do. This has become a competition between me and you because we're the best at what we do. And then LeBron went out and won some game, and Tom Brady's like, all right, fuck it. Even though I'm sure Tom Brady doesn't curse, but he was just like, whatever, I'm going back in. And it's just hilarious, the timing on that and that football.
Dude, fuck LeBron James. Like, dude, I don't like that guy. Did you see the quote he had like a week or two ago? Because the Lakers suck now. LeBron's not playing well. Him and another player got into an altercation with some fans in the stadium because they were basically saying, hey, you fucking suck. You're ruining our team, blah, blah, blah. LeBron was quoted saying that they should either put a soundproof barrier between the fans and the players, or just get rid of the fans from the stadium again so that he doesn't have to listen to them. I'm like, dude, those fans are the reason you make the money you make. Like, yeah, it sucks to be off your game and people giving you shit. You get paid a lot of money to deal with that. Like, shut the fuck up and deal with it. Money. Like, dude, Charles Oakley, somebody threw, I think they threw like a cup of beer at Charles Oakley or something. He went up in the stands and punched the dude. Like, dude, do that. Like, at least that would be fun to watch. Don't sit here and bitch on TV about how people are being mean to you. People also weren't as too happy back then, too. This is true. Like, if LeBron went out and slapped somebody in a crowd, they're going to sue that motherfucker for millions of dollars. Dude, if LeBron came out in the crowd and slapped me, I would whoop his ass. Like, he might beat me, but I'm gonna go at him. Like, they're going to drag me out of the stadium. Die trying, son of. Yeah, and then I'm gonna start doing cameos. Like, that guy who fought LeBron James in the stands, pay me $5, I'll make you a cameo video. Oh, fucking A, dude. Fucking Tom Brady. I always like that in the South Park video game. I think it's the fractured butthole. Yeah. You have to put in the code to get down into Cartman's like secret lair, which is just the basement. And you have to play through the game to figure out what the code is. But if you look up the code online and go to the thing and type it in to try to get in there beforehand, Cartman shows up on the screen as this, like, he's in a football coach, and he goes, "What are you doing, Tom Brady? Trying to cheat?" Yeah. Fucking hilarious, dude. Oh, great. Yeah, there was a whole episode of South Park about that where Cartman started teaching this class. It was a spoof of what was it, Stand and Deliver, I think, the movie with Edward James Olmos, where he goes and teaches the inner city kids. Is it Stand and Deliver? How do I teach these kids? Yeah, he's like, how do I teach these kids? And his whole thing was he just taught the whole class how to cheat to pass their tests and stuff. Oh, dude, South Park is one of my great loves in life. Oh, dude, it's fucking so good. But yeah, I watched the pandemic special. Oh, dude, the new season has been hilarious so far. Yeah, the last one was the last episode was about the Russian attack on the Ukraine, and basically, dude, it was the funniest shit. Basically, Mackie told Putin that Putin was invading the Ukraine because his dick didn't work anymore. And I was like, dude, this is the fucking funniest shit. Like, Putin's probably going to have these guys killed, but dude, this is hilarious. I don't know, man. They put Muhammad on TV and didn't die over it. So, well, they almost did. Comedy Central pulled it at the last second. Oh, okay. Yeah. I know. Which is funny because Muhammad was in an episode several years ago. But then when that episode aired, there was this whole thing. They were getting death threats and stuff, and Comedy Central at the last minute were like, we're not going to allow you to air this. So they like black screened and put like a description of what was happening. But I think still during the credits, it was just Trey and Matt on everything. Like, they didn't give anyone else's real name. Yeah. Just to be safe. Oh, fucking A. All right. So what else? Do you want to jump into some community questions? Yeah, we're getting close to the end. Let's grab a few of these community questions. I'll let you grab one. All right. Well, since we referenced it earlier, our buddy Phil asked us, what is some good metal music for someone who is looking to get into the metal genre? So I'm going to let you handle most of this. I'm not a huge metalhead. I am going to plug a band I'm friends with called Cultist Black. They're a local band. They're on tour right now. Really good, like, stage show metal. We did in my store, I've got a bunch of empty space. They were in a battle of the bands sort of thing. Yeah. And we staged like a whole music video in the back of my store on like 2 days notice. And I still say the only reason they didn't win is because the studio we were streaming to had sound issues. So like most of the music got cut out for their set. And there was another band in there that I think were the crowd favorites. They wanted to win because they had a similar issue and they actually stopped the stream and got the issue fixed first. Whereas when Cultist Black were going, they just went without the music and it was just a jumbled mess. Yeah. But check them out. They're on Spotify. They're on YouTube. They just put a new video out recently called Nevermind. They're a really good metal band. Outside of them, The closest I would say is like like I said, I'm a huge Marilyn Manson fan. I don't know if it technically classifies as metal, but he puts on a hell of a show. Like I've seen him twice, one in an open air arena, or not an arena, open air pavilion, and one in the House of Blues in Myrtle Beach, which is still probably one of my favorite shows ever because the energy he puts out in such a small, closed-in space was just electric. That's probably all I could say for metal bands. So I'll let you jump into that.
Oh, man, well... It depends on what you're looking for. Like, if you don't like screaming and you just like some good clean vocals with some really heavy guitar, there's a band called Catatonia, and it's spelled with a K. It'd be Kataonia, Catatonia. They're really fucking good, dude. Like, they're one of my favorite bands. Those guys, Korn is a classic you can't go wrong with.
Oh yeah, naturally. I don't really put Korn as metal though. I feel like Korn is in this weird 90s genre of music that hasn't really been reproduced since. But I do love Korn. They put on a hell of a stage show. Yeah, I definitely put them at the top.
If you don't mind heavier vocals, then I would say go with like Winter Sun or maybe Amon Amarth. Or Mechana. Mechana is my favorite band right now. Other than my all-time favorite band, which is Typo Negative, who I recommend to anybody and everybody. They're great metal. Just fantastic stuff. But Mechana is like... It's just space epic, symphonic, fucking atmospheric metal. Like, I don't know how to describe it. They tell, like, all of their albums tell one long story. That is this story about how Earth gets destroyed and how humanity basically survives after that with these other two planets, and there are these big gods that are going through these battles and these giant robots, and there's a lot of crazy shit going on, and it's all told through their music. I'll post one of their songs in the group because that's probably the one that I would recommend the most, because they have a combination. Like, they have some songs that have a lot of heavy growls and stuff, but then they have songs where they have this girl that's singing, and it's her singing the entire time, so you kind of get a mix of both. There's so many good metal bands out there, dude, that it's hard to narrow them down. But
I can't believe I forgot one of my favorites, and Dalton will probably laugh when I say it, but Death Clock is some of my go-to metal music. It's funny because it's a cartoon band, but they put out a pretty good mix of, like what Dalton was saying, some easier listening metal, I guess, for lack of a better word, and then some straight up screaming, just heavy instrumental metal music. So they're definitely worth checking out.
Death Clock had a lot of melody with their death metal, which was really good. Other ones I would think of, maybe... Well, I'll give you one more. Let me think for a second. Mudvayne.
Mudvayne's definitely a good one.
It's just classic. But like, if I was going to recommend anything by Mudvayne, their second album, The End of All Things to Come. Good from beginning to end. One of the best albums ever released back in those days. But yeah, check those bands out. If any of those jump out at you, let me know, and then I can kind of build more towards like what your taste is. Because anybody asking me that, I'm always like, well, I need you to kind of give me a general idea of what you like, and then I can kind of mold what I'm going to tell you to check out. Let's see, what are some other community questions? What are some crazy things that we've done?
Yeah, Santos asked, what are some crazy things we've done in life? I told him, like, I'll lean that towards you because I've done a pretty boring life. I'm trying to think of any kind of like crazy stuff I've done. But I just can't, because I know Santos goes to like the community gatherings in the desert and stuff. I forget the name of it.
Wasteland. He goes to Wasteland.
Yeah, Wasteland. See, I've never done that kind of stuff because I'm more introverted. I don't really like being around that much people all the time.
I've seen like over 300 bands in concert, but as far like all my wild shit was in my partying days back in the day. I can tell you one crazy thing I've done. I go to my buddy's house, and I won't name him because, well, we'll call him Slow, because that was part of his nickname. So we'll just say we'll call him Slow. He's like, hey, you and Dustin want to come over? I've got something I want you guys to try. Yeah, sure. So we show up to his house, and he hands us each this pill capsule. And we're like, what is this? And he says, this is a drug that a UF student made in the lab at school. He goes, it's called 4-ACO. He's like, it's a chemical compound mixture close to Molly and mushrooms. So it'll give us a good buzz. And I was like, cool. So we each took one. And it was great. We had a good time that night. So the next weekend, he hits us up, asks us to come back out there. So we go back out there, and he's like, so this stuff isn't selling because nobody doesn't know what, like, no one knows what it is. He goes, I don't want to get caught with it if it ever people show up. So I have 6 left. Let's each take 2. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. Last week was fine. So we each took 2. 5 minutes go by, maybe 10 at the most. And I'm sitting on the couch with those guys, and all of a sudden I have to throw up violently. Oh. So I stand up and I run to the bathroom, open up the toilet, hold the toilet, heave my guts out, and when I do that, the toilet just sinks into the floor. And I went, whoa. And when I said whoa, my voice came from the other side of the bathroom. Now, Dustin tells this part of the story better than me because I was already tripping balls at this moment, like just out of my mind tripping. And I was in the bathroom for a good bit, apparently throwing up and then just sitting in there, probably pondering life. But I ended up coming out, and they said I walked into the living room and I looked at them, and there was this other girl that was there who she didn't take the drug. She was just on cocaine, which was her own thing. None of us liked it. So we were just like, nah, you do you, boo. I walk in there, and Dustin says, I looked at him and I went, if I don't talk, it's because my voice is disassociated from my body. And he said, I just turned stone-faced and walked over to the couch, laid on the couch, curled up in a ball, and that's where I laid until I stopped tripping. And the only memory I have is laying on that couch, and Slow had on Bass Nectar. And it was this song, I think it was called Time Lapse or Time Warp or something like that. And it was like, because I don't know if you know who Bass Nectar is. He's a dubstep DJ, so it was just really heavy bass. Really, and I went,
it's always the best thing to have when you're tripping balls.
I said, dude, this is fucking too much. And all I hear is, I kind of like, the one time I look up and kind of look over my shoulder, I can kind of hear Corey. He's like leaned back on the couch with his eyes wide open. He just goes, yeah, dude, this is fucking massive. Like, all of us were tripping fucking nuts. I sobered up first, like, because it hit me the hardest, you know what I'm saying? So, but Dustin never threw up. So, like, when I was driving us home from Gainesville back to Keystone, Dustin's sitting in my passenger seat, just staring out the window, just fucking tripping shit, watching the sun come up. Just like, oh man, that was a fun fucking night. I mean, at the time it wasn't, but like once it was over, I was man, what an experience. I am never taking that shit again.
Stories to look back on.
Exactly. And that's my crazy story for this week. But I do have a bunch of stories like that, so I'll try to share those incrementally.
Nice.
I do try to, like, I was trying to tell those every now and then on the Steam Machine podcast. Shout out to my other show, the Steam Machine podcast, a video game podcast. But like, they're hard to fit into conversation because we're not usually talking about just life things. So maybe I'll try to work those in more here on this show.
So it's always fun to just bullshit from time to time.
Exactly.
So,
and speaking of bullshit, I was gonna say, is there either of these that jump out at you? You want to save some?
I was gonna say Phil also asked us about game mechanics. He said, what are the most bullshit game mechanics or game endings you have seen? I'm gonna give one suggestion because it's pertinent to what I've been doing this week. Horizon, both Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, rely on a save point system to save the game, which sucks because about 3 days this week I've been like, oh cool, I'm ready to go to bed, let me save this and go, and I've gotten into some bullshit of a boss fight or it's like dungeon crawling sort of things where you're in facilities and you're having to climb and solve puzzles and shit for like a fucking hour and a half. So like you're ready to go to bed, but no, you have to spend an hour and a half either fighting a boss or solving a bunch of fucking like verticality puzzles and stuff. You're like, I'm sitting there in this living room and my girlfriend walks by. She's like, are you coming to bed? I'm like, I fucking want to so bad. I just have to figure out when I can save this fucking game. Like, save point. It's 2022. Get rid of save points. Let me just go in the menu, click save, and be done.
Oh, how the tables have turned from when we were younger, and it was like, no, I can't find a save point. I can't go to bed yet. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom. I have to save it.
I have to see this through. So now you're just like, God damn it, I want to save this and go to bed.
My bullshit mechanic is something that I experienced recently as well, and it was the shooting accuracy in Star Wars Jedi Outcast. Holy fuck. I don't know if it's because I was trying to use the Stormtrooper rifle or what, but it might not be the Stormtrooper's fault. It might be faulty weaponry, because goddamn does that thing... The whole crosshair, it was before that game came out, before they figured out that the bullet should go where the crosshair is exactly aimed, and like all this fucking shit. It was just, it's a rough time. It didn't age well until you get your lightsaber. Then it's much better. But
as far as bullshit games, I haven't played anything lately that I genuinely hated. Endings, don't have any game endings, but there's a movie that literally I watched in a theater and I stood up at the end of the movie and said, are you fucking kidding me? Like, loud. Did you watch Knowing with Nicolas Cage?
No.
Oh, it's such a good movie. I hate to spoil the ending, but it's...
Spoilers for this movie.
Yeah, spoiler alert. If you want to see Knowing, don't. No, it was a really good movie because the premise of the movie is Nicolas Cage is something I don't remember at this point, but he's like, this woman, crazy woman, is predicting all these like mass casualty events like plane crashes and stuff. And so he goes to see her, and she's got like this door or wall or something she's just scribbled all these numbers on, and the numbers are like the date, the time, and how many people are going to die. So it's like, like March 31st whatever year, 12:30, 50 people, and then it's like, a plane crashes and 50 people die. And it's like he's going through these numbers, he's trying to predict like if he can stop these events from happening. And at the very end of it, it says, it looks like 2 backwards 3s, but it's actually E's. Throughout the movie, they figure out that EE is everyone else. So it's basically on this date at this time, everyone's going to die. And like the whole movie, you're like, holy shit, what's happening? I need to know what's happening. And then at the end of the movie, it's the most, I get angry talking about it. It's the most bullshit thing where like fucking aliens show up and they're like, we're going to take Nicolas Cage and this like 12-year-old girl and they're going to repopulate another planet. And like when they say aliens, I'm just in the theater, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And a bunch of people turn around and look at me, and I was like, I will never watch this movie ever again because this ending pissed me off so fucking bad. Like you had so many places you could have went and you copped out with fucking aliens. Like, it makes me so mad just thinking about, like, I want my 2 hours back, Nicolas Cage.
I remember me and my buddy Brendan going to a movie theater, and we saw I think the movie was called Jumper.
I vaguely remember that.
It was like where they could just like jump through, I don't know if it was time or they could just warp to places or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
It was interesting at the time, but I remember when the movie ends, it's just like at the end, and spoilers for like a 20-year-old movie for Jumper, but like it gets to the ending and the guy's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And he just goes like, ah, and jumps the whole room he's in to like the middle of a desert, and the camera does a pan out and shows that they're in the desert, cut to black, into the movie. What the fuck? And I remember Brendan looking at me and going, what the fuck? And I looked at him and I said, that didn't explain shit. I was like, what the fuck was that?
The writers were like, we don't know how to end this, we're just gonna stop writing.
A dramatic pan in.
And Finn,
it's like
it's artistic.
And our last community question for the week, before we hop on out of here, was from Kana, who is a friend of mine from the Steam Machine and Tadpog and all those good other places. Tadpog, shout out Tyler and They Play Old Games. Our favorite anime / manga.
We touched on it a little bit last week. I'd say my favorite anime, if I had to pick one, would probably be Death Note, just because, like I said last week, it's the one I would most want to be in, because I would love to have a notebook that I could write people's names in and they just cease to exist. Like I said, there's a lot of good ones out there, and that's coming from someone who's not a huge anime fan. There is a lot of really well-written manga and anime out. I said Death Note would probably be my one, though, if I had to pick one.
See, man, yeah, I've watched a few really good ones, and it's mostly been my friends showing them to me. I've been meaning to watch more. Food Wars is one I picked up by myself that I loved. I need to finish that show. I've only watched like the first half of the first season. Fucking hilarious, though, and it's related to food, and I love food. Yu Yu Hakusho was one that my buddy showed me back in the day. That show is tremendous. Fight scenes are great. Like, it's fucking good. Dragon Ball Z was good. Naruto, fantastic. But if I had to jump out one that I just randomly stumbled upon, it was one season and I enjoyed the shit out of it. It was called Demon King Daimao, and I might be saying that wrong, but it was fucking great, dude. I just randomly picked it on Crunchyroll and then sat there and watched the whole thing, and it was fucking tremendous. Now, there's one anime I haven't watched yet, but I want to watch it strictly based on the name, and it's called Cautious Hero. The hero is overpowered but overly cautious.
Oh, nice.
Like, that's the whole name of the fucking show. And the other one's like, my mom's a badass paladin in the MMO that we play, or something like that. Like these crazy named ones that I'm like, I want to watch these. Like the time I got reincarnated as a slime. It's like, dude, you guys are naming your anime shows like Panic at the Disco named songs, and I'm here for it.
I will say, if I had to go off the mainstream anime thing, there was one I watched. The manga was great. The show only lasted like a season, which is fairly normal for anime. It was called The Devil is a Part-Timer. And it's about literally the devil. It's, of course, not like Christianity, heaven and hell. There's all these different realms, I guess you'd say. But the devil himself comes to Japan as like a early 20s person, and he wants to take over the world. But he figures to take over the world, he has to get a job. So he gets a job at their nondescript version of McDonald's. And he's basically like, there's a teenage girl that's crushing on him hardcore. There's a female, like, holy warrior that's there to... She's supposed to be stopping him, but she's kind of like watching him where if he does anything, she can stop him. And he's kind of like, look, I'm just a kid trying to work and make a living, blah, blah, blah. But she's kind of following along. There's like one episode where like he's trying to get his performance up, and everybody loves these garlic fries or something or like black pepper fries he created. Well, then the fryer goes down, so he's like, oh god, what am I going to do? We're not going to be able to sell fries. So like uses his devil magic to fix the fryer. Like, it's just, it's wacky as shit, but it was a really good show. It was on, I want to say Hulu had it dubbed forever ago. I don't think it still is. I think you can just find subtitle versions of it now, but like if you get a chance to watch it, it's a pretty fun show to watch.
I'll check it out. It's probably on Funimation.
Probably.
And
so.
I do watch that. Other ones that I can think of that kind of are like the devilish theme is like Trinity Blood, which was vampires versus the Catholic Church. Probably a little less zany than that show, but it was still crazy. And then the Devil May Cry anime is fucking violent. Holy shit. Like the first scene in that show is people making fun of Dante sitting in a bar, and he just fucking slaughters them. It's fucking wild.
I will say the first 2 seasons of Castlevania were really good. It kind of went off the rails after that. Like they didn't know where to go with it, so they kind of just shit enough story out to finish up the contract they had. There's supposed to be a spin-off of it that it sounds like it's going to be really good. But yeah, the Castlevania Netflix anime was pretty good.
Hell yeah, man. Well, brother, we have crested about an hour and a half. So, and we've covered all the community questions. Our own topics, we can save the remaining ones for another day. But is there anything else that you'd like to bring up here at the end?
No, I think we got a pretty well-rounded episode this week.
Hell yeah. Well, then I will ask, would you like to take it out, or do you want me to? Do you want to plug the Facebook group? Yeah,
we've got a Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/ yet another BS podcast. You can join there. You can ask questions, comment on things we've talked about, suggest new topics, any of that stuff. If you're not on Facebook, you want to shoot us an email. It's yetanotherbspod@gmail.com. We're still working on the Anchor FM voicemail line. We're trying to figure that one out. It's a little trickier than we were expecting. Or if you just want to shoot us, either of us, a message, if you follow us on any social medias, as far as topics, advice, suggestions, you just want to curse at us for our various views on video games and wrestling and whatnot, go for it. Anything you want to
add? Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Super Nerd Dalton. That's me. And I try to remember to post things on there. I do still need to make this show a Twitter, so I will try to do that this week. I forgot this last week, but I'll remember this week, I promise.
Yeah, my Twitter is just call me Jezza, Gezza. I'm on there some. I do get my notifications, so if I get messages or tags, I'll know. My Twitter account's kind of taking some weird right turn that I don't like, so I'm not really watching my timeline as much. But yeah, that'd probably be the better way. If you don't have Facebook and you don't feel like emailing us, shoot us something on Twitter.
Yeah, man. We'll get it all figured out, and we thank you for listening to episode 2 of this podcast. Stick around. There will be more bullshit to come. For Jeremy, my name is Dalton, and as always, guys, take it easy.